Nobody told you that some of the things you do every single day, things that feel completely normal, even responsible, are quietly stealing years of wealth from your life. Not your income, not the economy, not your boss who won't give you a raise. You. I know that's uncomfortable to hear. I know it sounds like blame, but stay with me for a second, because there's a difference between blame and awareness. Blame says it's your fault and you're stuck. Awareness says it's your pattern and you can change it. The habits I'm going to walk you through today aren't dramatic. You won't recognize them as bad habits. That's exactly what makes them dangerous. They're invisible, they're normalized, and by the time most people see them clearly, they're in their 40s wondering why their bank account never seems to grow, no matter how hard they work. You're here before that moment. That matters more than you know. Before we get into the 5 habits, I need to give you a new lens to look through. I call it the comfort tax. Here's what I mean. Every time we choose the easier, more comfortable option, the one that feels good right now, there's a charge. It doesn't show up on your bank statement, it doesn't ping your phone, but it's being collected silently every single day, compounding against you. Think of it like this. Imagine your future financial life is a garden. Every good decision you make today is planting a seed. Every comfort tax habit is not just skipping the planting, it's salting the soil, slowly, quietly, until one day you look out and wonder why nothing's growing. The 5 habits we're about to cover all have one thing in common. They feel like comfort or convenience or just normal life, but every single one of them is collecting a comfort tax from your future self. And here's the thing about your future self. They don't get a vote. They just get the bill. Let's talk about what you owe. Habit number 1, spending money to manage your emotions. I had a friend, let's call him Rohan, who was genuinely one of the smartest people in our friend group. Good job, decent salary, no major debt. But every time he had a rough week at work, something interesting happened. A new gadget would show up, a new pair of shoes, a dinner out at a place he couldn't really afford. And it was never a lot of money at once. $20 here, $60 there. But by the end of a bad month, he'd burned through an extra $400 to $500 without realizing it, without any memory of a single purchase that actually made him feel better. Here's what was really happening. He wasn't spending money, he was medicating with money. This is emotional spending. And research from the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that nearly 75% of all impulse purchases are emotionally driven, not need-driven, emotion-driven. Boredom, stress, loneliness, a feeling of, I deserve this after the week I had. The metaphor I want you to hold on to here is this. Emotional spending is like using a Band-Aid on a broken bone. It feels like treatment. It covers the problem, but the bone is still broken underneath, and you've spent your whole first aid kit in the process. Here's your question to sit with. In the last 30 days, when did you spend money in response to a feeling, not a need, not even a want you'd planned for, just a feeling, stress, frustration, boredom? Can you name one purchase? Most people can name 3 without even trying. The action step here is not stop feeling things. You're a human being, not a spreadsheet. The action step is to create a 48-hour rule. Before any unplanned purchase over $30, wait 48 hours. Write it down, revisit it. 9 times out of 10, the emotion that created the urge has passed, and so has the desire to spend. Habit 2, lifestyle inflation. Upgrading your life before you've upgraded your future. You get a raise. Your salary goes from the equivalent of $2,000 a month to $2,500 a month. What happens almost immediately? You find a better apartment. You start eating out more. Maybe you upgrade the phone. Maybe you get a car that finally feels like you. And by the time the dust settles, you're spending $2,450 a month instead of $1,900. The raise happened, but you're not saving any more than you were before. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the single most socially accepted way to stay broke while appearing successful. A Federal Reserve study found that nearly 40% of Americans can't cover an unexpected $400 expense. This isn't a country full of people on minimum wage. This is engineers, teachers, marketing managers, people with real incomes who got sucked into the invisible current of this is what people at my income level do. I want you to think of lifestyle inflation like a treadmill that speeds up every time you run faster. The effort increases, the sweat increases, but your position doesn't change. You're working harder to stay in the same place, except the place now looks nicer, so you don't even notice you haven't moved. Ask yourself this. In the last 2 years, as your income has gone up, has your savings rate gone up proportionally? Not in dollar terms, in percentage terms. If your income went up 20%, but your savings rate is still 5%, you didn't get wealthier. You got a more expensive life. The fix is deceptively simple, but requires actual intention. Every time you get a raise, direct at least 50% of the increase automatically into savings or investments before you ever see it in your account. Let the other 50% be your lifestyle upgrade. That way you're improving your life and building your future simultaneously, instead of trading one for the other. Habit 3, paying the ignorance premium. There's a tax on not knowing things. Nobody collects it officially, but you pay it every month without fail. You pay it when you don't know that your bank savings account pays 0.01% interest, while a high-yield savings account elsewhere pays 4.5% or more. On $10,000, that's the difference between earning $1 a year and earning $450 a year. Same money, different knowledge. You pay it when you don't read the fine print on a subscription and realize you've been on the annual plan for 3 years for a service you use twice a month. You pay it when you don't know how to negotiate a bill, or how your health insurance actually works, or what your employer's 401k match policy really means, because that match is free money and millions of people leave it uncollected every single year. In the US alone, employees leave an estimated $24 billion in unclaimed 401k employer matches on the table annually. $24 billion. Free money, just left there. The analogy for this one is simple. Imagine you're at a restaurant and there's a secret menu. Better food, better prices, but you only find out about it if you ask. Most people never ask, not because they're foolish, but because they didn't know to ask. That's the ignorance premium. It's not stupidity tax. It's information scarcity tax. Here's your question. What financial thing have you been meaning to understand for months, but keep putting off? The interest rate on your debt, how your investments are actually allocated, whether you have the right insurance. Pick one, just one, and spend 45 minutes this week genuinely learning it. The action step is this. Dedicate 1 hour per week to financial literacy. 1 hour, that's it. A podcast during your commute, a YouTube video on index funds, a single chapter of a personal finance book. The ignorance premium is real, but it's also the most avoidable tax in existence. Habit 4, living without a plan and calling it freedom. I want to be careful here because this one is personal for a lot of people, myself included at one point. There's a story we tell ourselves about budgets and financial plans. We say, that's too restrictive. I don't want to live with a spreadsheet ruling my life. I want to be spontaneous. I want to enjoy the present. And I understand that completely. I lived like that for years. I thought a budget was a cage. But here's what I didn't understand until someone showed me. A budget isn't a cage. It's a map. A cage tells you where you can't go. A map tells you exactly how to get where you want to be. When you don't have a plan, you don't have freedom. You have drift. And drift is how you end up at 35, wondering where the last decade of income went. Not because you were irresponsible, but because you never decided what direction you were going. So every bright, shiny, convenient thing got to decide for you. A famous study by Dr. Gail Matthews at Dominican University found that people who write down their financial goals are 42% more likely to achieve them than those who don't. Not because writing is magic, but because clarity creates intention, and intention drives action. Think of it this way. You're a ship. Without a plan, you're a ship with no rudder in the middle of the ocean, at the mercy of whatever current is strongest today. Maybe that current is a sail. Maybe it's social pressure. Maybe it's a bad mood. A financial plan doesn't chain you to the wheel. It just means you are the one steering. Ask yourself this. Right now, without looking anything up, do you know how much you spent last month? Do you know how much you saved? Do you know the number you're trying to hit before the end of this year? If the answer is not really, you don't have freedom. You have expensive fog. The action step. Spend 30 minutes this weekend writing down 3 numbers: what you earn, what you spend, what you want to save. That's it. That's the beginning of the map. You don't need a sophisticated app or a financial advisor on day one. You need those 3 numbers written down, honest. Habit 5, treating time like it's renewable. This is the one that hurts the most to talk about, and I think it's the one most people in their 20s aren't ready to fully hear. But I'm going to tell you anyway, because I wish someone had told me. Time in your 20s is not just time. It is the most powerful financial asset you will ever possess in your entire life. And it is the only one you cannot earn back, cannot save, and cannot buy more of. Here's what I mean with numbers, because numbers make this real in a way that words alone can't. If you invest $200 a month, starting at age 22, and you earn an average annual return of 8%, by the time you're 62, you'll have approximately $700,000. If you wait until you're 32 to start, same $200 a month, same 8% return, you'll have around $305,000. Same person, same habits, same discipline. A 10-year delay costs you nearly $400,000. That's not a metaphor. That's math. That's the compound interest curve working exactly as it's designed to, rewarding early starters ruthlessly and penalizing late ones quietly. The habit I'm naming here is not investing. It's deeper than that. It's treating time like it's always going to be there. It's the I'll start when I make more money mindset. It's the I'll get serious after I turn 30 logic. It's putting everything important off until some version of your life that feels more ready. A version that keeps moving forward every time you get close to it. Here's the metaphor. Time is a river, and compound interest is the boat you're either rowing or not rowing. Right now, this second, the river is moving. The current is doing work. People who started rowing 5 years ago are already far downstream, not because they're smarter, not because they earn more, but because they started. Every day you wait, you're not standing still. The river is still moving. You're just not in the boat. I want you to ask yourself this, and I want you to sit with the discomfort of it. What would the version of you at 45 say to you right now? What would they tell you to do this week that you keep postponing? The action step is non-negotiable, and you can do it today. Open a retirement or investment account. Not someday, today. If you already have one, increase your contribution by 1%. Just 1%. The amount is almost not the point right now. Starting and not stopping is the point. Okay, I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now, and I want to address it directly before we close. This is great advice for people who have breathing room, but I'm barely covering my rent. I don't have $200 a month to invest. I don't have the luxury of a 48-hour rule when every purchase is already necessary. I hear that. And I want to be honest with you. If you are in genuine financial survival mode, some of what I said today doesn't apply to you yet. And that's okay. Stability comes before strategy, always. But I also want to gently push back on one thing. In my experience, Most people who say, "I have no room," have never actually looked closely enough to know for certain. Not because they're lying to themselves, but because looking closely is uncomfortable. Because finding the $47 you spent emotionally, or the subscription you forgot about, or the 1% you could redirect, that means confronting the gap between where you are and where you want to be. The financial pressure is real. I'm not dismissing it. But habits form at any income level. The person who earns $4,000 a month and saves nothing has the same habits as the person who earns $10,000 a month and saves nothing, just at a different scale. You don't need to fix all 5 habits today. You need to pick one, the smallest, most achievable version of one, and do it this week. That's how it starts. Not with a windfall, not with a perfect income, with one decision made consistently until it becomes who you are. I want to leave you with one image. Imagine 2 trees planted in the same soil, in the same sun, drinking the same rain. One was planted 10 years before the other. Today they look almost the same. Maybe the older one has a slightly thicker trunk, a few more branches. You might not even notice the difference if you walk past. But 10 years from now, 20 years from now, one of them is a tree, the other is a forest. That's what financial habits are. Right now, today, the gap between who makes these changes and who doesn't is almost invisible. Nobody can see the 48-hour rule playing out in your head. Nobody knows whether you increased your investment by 1% this month. It doesn't show up on your face. It doesn't change your social media. But time reveals everything. The habits you delete before 30 are not just saving you money. They are compounding your character, building the kind of person who handles wealth wisely when it arrives, rather than scaling up their problems along with their income. You walked into this video one way. I hope you leave it just slightly differently. Not with a plan figured out, not with every answer, just with the quiet, honest recognition that some of what you've been doing is costing you more than you knew. And that recognition, that small, uncomfortable moment of, "Oh, that's me," that's where everything changes. Not loudly, not dramatically, just one seed at a time.